tore one of my pecs, before all this happened too. And, I was trying to stay in shape, and I think what I was doing is trying to lift too heavy. And, so I popped one of my biceps.
What was hard to recover from? Was it the heart attack or was it a torn pec?
The heart attack and the stroke were the hard part. I think that's what took a while. And, but I'm just trying to get my body back. And, my doctor was like, look, dude, you just had bad genes, bad genetics. And you tried everything you could. I did everything I could do just to try to feel better. And then, but it just went all wrong. I guess I was probably trying too hard,
But did you know beforehand that was happening, or was that inevitable, or that's something that just was sprung on you like when it happened, that your genetics?
I didn't know anything. I know my dad passed, in his early 50s, but I mean, besides that, my dad was adopted and all that, so I didn't really have a big genetic, pool to pull from. So, but I did everything I could do, health wise. I ran and worked out every day and ate right, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting in a wheelchair. I'm going, what happened? But that's what it was, but I feel great now. I'm just, trying to get back into the, into the groove, and, touring, and of course is pretty, rigorous at times, but it's getting there. I'm getting my groove back. It was tough, kind of coming back from this stuff, because like what I said, I came back, I was in a wheelchair going, what in the world am I doing in a wheelchair? They said, you had a stroke. I said, a stroke? They said, and a heart attack. I said, oh, but it was pretty traumatic. But I feel great now, though. I really do. I feel like another lease on life, and I'm very blessed.
I saw your other interviews where you said you don't remember any of it. Do you think like, man, I wish I had a better death story, or I wish I saw the line, I wish I had a story about seeing that? Or
yeah, everybody asked me, man, did you see anything? Did you see Elvis or anything? I said, well, I didn't. Honestly, I don't remember any of it. The last year, I don't remember any. I have no recollection of the year before on tour or anything. I just I just was so clogged up, I guess, and my doctor, of course, was kind of explaining everything that happened in the stroke and all that. Of course, I was, when I came to, I was in a wheelchair in rehab in Atlanta at the Shepherd Center, and which is a fabulous facility, and they were great. They really helped a lot, and I appreciate all the stuff they did. But it was nice to get home and kind of get back to normal a little bit.
But when that happened, before that, were you the type of I guess college athlete that something didn't feel right, that what, maybe it's just I'll take a supplement or I'll sleep a little better and it'll go away? Or were you a guy who's on top of your blood work and top of checkups?
I probably could have been on top of the blood work and stuff better, but I was feeling tired, very tired. And, my tour manager was like, he said, man, I had to get you out of bed to go on stage. He said, you were so tired. And I tried to work out during the day, and, had a pretty healthy, regiment of, working out and trying to, shakes and all the stuff, but, he said, it doesn't really matter if you're genetic, if you're face down in the gene pool, and it's, it's very humbling, but it's kind of having to start over again. But I honestly, I feel so much better. My head's clear, and I sing better than I've sung in my life, and it's just a matter of getting out there and getting in shape better, and I've got several months. I'm kind of doing that now, and getting back into the touring next year.
Well, how long ago did this happen, or what was the gap between the heart attack and the stroke, and I guess getting the green light to go right back into training and to go back into the
well, It all happened in February of last year. February 4th is when it happened. And then 5 days later, I had the stroke. So that's when they sent me to Atlanta to the Shepherd Center and I was there till about June. And, so I was down there and, pretty intense rehabilitation stuff. And now I'm, back home and, we started touring, we did a few shows here, a few shows there just to see how I felt and God, I feel great, and so it's good to be back at it,
What was some of the early recovery like for you? Like what, when you were at the Atlanta hospital, what did you have to go through? Like just to get yourself back from day one to day two? How did that all work out?
They had me doing a lot of stuff, cognitive stuff, which was probably good, and um, so that was the kind of the beginning of it. And then, I'd take walks and, then I got to where I could walk, a couple miles, then, a little bit more and, doing little stuff like, I'd shoot basketball or something. And it was, it was a slow process of just coming back from all this stuff. And, so I didn't want to, I'd forgotten all about the injuries that I'd had. And, I was like, well, man, my shoulder feels wonky. Well, yeah, you messed that up too. I think I was just I was trying to do everything I could do. And it just wasn't, it wasn't going to happen, unless, all this, the heart attack and all that stuff happened. And, they had to clean my arteries out, from genetics, being in the genetic, just being a wreck, but I feel great now. Honestly, I feel better than I felt in a long time. My head's clear and it's just good to be home. I'm liking being home, even though I've got a lot of stuff going on at the house being fixed, you know how that goes.
Well, did the doctors tell you it could have been a lot worse, or what did they tell you afterwards?
Well, he said, well, you should not be here. There's no way you should live through this. So, that's good. I mean, I guess he said, look, you are in a percentage of under 1%. So you're the fact that you're here and have any cognitive, ability and, can walk and do all this stuff. He said, that's a miracle. So that's a good, so I'm very blessed,
Was there a time frame between that he gave you the green light eventually to say, now I can get back into weightlifting, I can get back into doing what I was doing before?
Well, it was February, so it was probably a good 8 months. I think he said just start slow and take walks. He said walks are really good for you, and I love doing that. And so I try to. There's a lot of parks right where I live, and so I try to go there, and but it's I feel, I mean, markedly better from from 6 months ago, from at the year point, and then now I'm getting to about a year and a half, and I'm starting to feel like a human again.
What was the more challenging part? I mean, through it all, was it the getting physically back to normal, back to 100%, or was it actually the mental part of even songwriting again and just sitting there focusing on putting together a good song?
I think for me personally, I think I'm more focused now. Of course, he said, well, you're going to have to be. You can breathe better. I was having a really hard time breathing, and I had all this acid reflux and stuff that's gone now, which is really good. And that's just your body telling you something's wrong. And but I feel way better now. And but it took a little time, to feel normal again.
So what's your daily routine like now? What do you?
Well, I mean, it's now that I'm back on tour. I mean, I just finished. I was in Canada. I was up in Western Canada, and I did some shows up there and back in, Nebraska, Ohio, all the way to the east coast of states. Back up in New York, and I did some shows in Wisconsin, and so I'm going back up to Minnesota this weekend, and I've got, like I said, a few more, and then I'm done. But it's getting better. I can feel myself getting better, which is good.
That one again. So what was it when you started songwriting? How did you just sit down and say, I've got plenty of ideas over this, or was it just something that just eventually over time?
Well, yeah, Hillbillies was one of those songs that I wrote with my friend Jeffrey Steele, who's been my friend for decades, and we wanted to cut some songs together. We've always wanted to. He's a great writer and great guy, and we come from the same background, even though he's a West Coaster and I'm an East Coaster, so we've always had interesting takes on the business and our lives, and we grew up very, very similar, big fans of guys like the Eagles and Merle Haggard, and all the way to, of course, I'm a piano player, so Billy Joel, Elton John were always my go-tos, my heroes, and Hornsby, and so it's been a lot of fun to get with him and record stuff and write, and hopefully we can do a whole lot more of it. That's what we're looking forward to.
And was it equally fulfilling or more fulfilling to be a #1 singer, #1 chart-topping singer, or an award-winning songwriter? Are they equal, or are they both different types of joys?
I think I love writing songs. I've always loved it, and it was great having other folks cut my songs. But I love recording myself and doing my songs and doing all these hits. I have a good time doing both. I mean, honestly, writing is something that you can do forever. And a lot of artists have kind of like Billy Joel now and Elton John are all retiring and deep in their 70s, and so I mean, I think I've got another decade or so. I love doing what I do, and it's hard to find something that you love to do and you actually can make a living doing it. It's hard to do that.
Well, does this all change your perspective now on just longevity, on how you're going to go about it?
Yeah, I think it does. I think you learn that you're not immortal. When you're young, you think you're bulletproof and all that stuff, but I think getting to hang out with my kids. My daughters are, I've got one out of college, one in college, and that's been a real blessing to be able to hang out with them and see them grow and help them do what they're doing. And I've learned a lot, through this experience, this ordeal. It's been great, hard, but great.
Was country music part of your plan when you were at James Madison?
Well, I always knew I wanted to do music. I wanted to be a writer, and I was. My dad was a huge fan of country music, and of course, Merle Haggard was one of his favorites, and he turned me on to him early, and of course, but I was a piano player, so everybody looked at me funny when I moved to Nashville. Going, man, what are you doing here? You're a piano player, This is a guitar town. I actually wrote a song called "Piano Man in a Guitar Town," which was pretty cool, and but I think you just kind of you adjust. Life's interesting, it gives you a lot of one door opens, one door closes. It's that kind of thing, it really is. Especially this business, because it's not easy. Some people walk into town and they're a star overnight. It took me a long time, and I don't know, to kind of prove myself to these folks, but I finally, it took me a few years, but I did, and then once I started getting cuts, and you start having a number of hits, and then everybody goes, okay, well, you're okay then. It takes a while sometimes. You know how it goes. You never know what's going to be what's going to work and what's not going to work. You don't know.
Which song do you think applies to that? Which one do you think was like, I don't know if this song is going to be good or not, and it turned out to be bigger than you ever expected?
Well, like songs like "I'm All Right" and "My Next 30 Years," they were big hits, and I wrote those songs, and I had my own bar, and I would play those songs, and the crowd loved it, and even the business folks. I mean, I'd play them for the folks in town, and they'd be like, I realized that some people, they think they know everything, but they don't. Just because they're in a position of power, it doesn't mean they're absolutely, I mean, they know something, obviously, but for me, it was I had to kind of prove myself. I mean, once the people started gravitating toward my music, I would play my bars, and I'd just crowds you couldn't get in the door, and a lot of the artists would start coming in. Then the label started coming in, so it took a while. I was a 10-year overnight sensation kind of thing.
I always ask this question as a songwriter. You have to be a perfectionist, I would assume. How do you know when to put the pen down? When you know that song is done and you don't go back to it 48 hours later and say, wait a minute, this lyric may be better.
Well, I think what I usually do is I write a song and then I give it a couple of days and I revisit it and I sort of go back over it again. And sometimes you just look at it and go, this could be better. I could make this stronger. And, I think the best songs are the ones you write in 10 minutes. I mean, seriously, you wake up. I woke up on my 30th birthday and I wrote my next 30 years. I wrote it in 10 minutes and I went to my club that night and I played it and everybody went crazy over it. I was like, well, this must be pretty good. And, I always trusted the people. I always trusted the audiences, and not the executives and all that. Because a lot of those guys are so jaded and, they're looking for certain things. And, I just found out that you just do what you do. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. And, I think that gave me some peace, in a way, because I was agonizing over all this stuff and struggling, because you can really drive yourself crazy if you let them. Those people will. That song will never work. Nobody wants to. Anyway, people tried to get me to change the lyrics to songs, and I'm just like, man, it works for me. I think it's good. So, and it ended up being the right thing, So.
Did you ever flip side to that? Was there ever one that you said this is a can't miss, and it just went on deaf ears?
Absolutely. Well, I think the market is different. Country is different, and pop. Now things are kind of opening up. I know you got Post Malone, and some of those guys are doing stuff in town, and a lot of the, which is cool, I think, and I think, with all of it, some of it, in your opinion, you go, this is just terrible, but people might like it. I don't know, see, you kind of become numb to criticism and all this stuff. You just kind of have to let it go. You got to do your thing, and that's all you can really trust is your own instinct, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
And did you write songs when you were at James Madison, when you were out doing track?
I did. My coach at JMU was a musician, a great musician and a guitar player. And Virginia, there's Hornsby, and you got this guy Robin Thompson, and the Statler brothers were a big country group over in the early 50s and 60s, and then Jimmy Fortune. So I kind of grew up around a lot of these guys that were really, really talented, and I love their music. And of course, Dave Matthews and those guys, were in Charlottesville, and it's kind of a cool little eclectic, mix of rock and pop and country, and which I really enjoyed. Bluegrass is really big time in that area, and so it's really fun to to see how things evolve, and over the years they have. And my dad was a musician, so he was a singer, and but anyway, he was always like, you have to get out of Virginia and go to Nashville. He kept saying that, he kept saying it. And finally one day I was, I was in school and in college, and I'm saying, I think he's right. So I went. My dad's like, well, wait a minute. But I think my dad would have gone to Nashville. I think, but he was trying to support his family and do all that stuff. I was at the point, I didn't have any kids or anything. I just, I was free to just move and take that chance. And so I did. And it took a while, like I said, but it happened, I think I was very persistent. I worked hard, like I think my athletic background was my base, and I mean, you trained hard, you worked hard, you got your butt kicked, and you fell down, and you lost, and you kept working, and you kept working until you succeeded at what you were trying to do, and I loved it. I think that was, for me, that was my testing ground. It was a great great way to grow up. I appreciated my coaches, and they really they pushed us. I just lost another coach, which was a really big influence of mine, and but he just it's like we're at the age where you start losing your heroes, and it happens, and but I really appreciate what those guys did, and they really did teach me discipline, and to push through it. That was always the thing.
Well, with that, I mean, with your condition, with Toby Keith now just passing, with your coaches
Yeah.
passing, Alan Jackson now retiring, do you have like another outlook and saying, "Hey, I'm not ready to go yet. I'm going to do a little more and more just to keep myself at 100%"?
Absolutely. I think that crosses my mind every day, and losing and Toby was a hard thing, and Toby was such a big, ball of energy, man. And it was tough to see him, go through what he went through, and of course, Jimmy Buffett, who I loved that man, and I got to, hang out with Jimmy, and the last couple of years, and we were at a award show, and we sat together and talked, and I mean, he was just he was an amazing human, and all these guys. I think about the George Jones and a lot of the folks that were heroes, as your kid, as you're a kid, and you grow up, and see Billy Joel and Elton John retiring, and now we're on the back end of it, so hopefully we can, just pass on some kind of, I don't know, maybe good knowledge to some of these folks, and help them along too, but it's a different time. It's not about relationships like it was, then. Now it's all about YouTube and TikTok, all this stuff, that you can I mean, stars are breaking without having to go through all the stuff too, which would have been nice back in the day. I wish we'd have had that, but it definitely makes you look at things differently.
Well, did you have to moonlight at JMU as a singer at night while training all day?
Well, you know what? I was pretty lucky. I did do some singing. I was in a group, the Madisonians, which is kind of a show choir thing we did at JMU, and that was a great experience too. And so I got to do some of that stuff. But even Sandy Crider, who was the head of the Madisonians, but she was like, what you're trying to do is you need to go to New York or Nashville or LA or something. What you're doing. There really wasn't any school for it until I learned that Belmont in Nashville is the school for that. Like Paisley and some of those cats went to school here, and they learned to record, and they have studios, and now we all have studios at home. It's different, not like it used to be. You go to these big studios, and it would cost $300,000 or $400,000 to cut an album.
Yeah,
Now
Brian Kelly, he went to, if I'm not mistaken, went to Belmont.
I think he did too. Yeah, and my daughter's a graduate, and my other daughter's at school there now. So it's a great school, and of course Vanderbilt is a great school too, and we have some good schools here in Nashville, but I really do think that for me it was the hard knocks. I had to get knocked down a lot and keep getting up, and I learned perseverance. I tell you that. That's what it all comes down to. I think it helps you, because a lot of times people just it didn't work. They move home. So
how did being a decathlete help in this?
Once again, I mean, that was talk about training. I mean, that's I was a huge Bruce Jenner. He was my he was my hero, right? You know, that Wheaties box. And so I was just a big fan. And you know, what he did. And, you know, him winning that gold medal. And he's been through a lot of just a lot of change in his life. And, you know, so, but I just was I really respected what he did and how hard he had to train. Decathletes are a different breed, you know. You know, it was fun to do it for a while. But I think ultimately I knew I was a singer, writer, piano player, you know. But I tell you, I wouldn't give anything for that stuff. It built my character really. You know, because that's what athletics does. I think, you know, you do get beat up a lot and you lose a lot until you don't, you know, until you keep training and you work harder and work. You know, it's pretty awesome to watch. I just watched the Olympics, of course. And it was it's just amazing, these athletes. But I was very proud of them, you know.
Was any of that training apply or carry over into your music, into performing? I mean, is there some of those workouts from your decathlon days? They carry over onto stage, onto jumping on a piano, onto just lasting 90 minutes, 2 hours?
It is. I mean, I was always a very physical guy, you know, with my show. And I love jumping up and down off the piano and doing flips and handstands. And I mean, you know, at some point, you know, you probably stop doing that because you end up on the floor and it's embarrassing. But you know, but it's been great. And I don't know. I love, you know, still some watching the athletes. And you know, here in town, I'll go to track meets and just go watch them. And it's just it's fun to, you know, feel that energy. You know, something about it. And it's very I mean, it's inspiring. It makes you feel alive.
Well, what's one exercise that just keeps you going? That every athlete and every musician must have in their workouts.
You know,
According to
I think for me, it clears my head walking. I mean, I just take hikes and I love it. You know, I do. I was just up in Montana and I took some great hikes and some of the trails and some of the lake. I mean, it's just such a beautiful place. You know, we're lucky here in Tennessee and where I grew up in Virginia, we had the Blue Ridge Mountains, and you take all these hikes through through the woods. For some reason, it clears you know, puts you in this zone, you know, where you can just sort of focus on, you know, anything. You know, the whole world goes away and you're just on this trail, you know, and you see a bear walk by or a coot or whatever it is, you know, and you're just going, whoa, you know. It was really great to do that. And you see these lakes and the fish and that, you know, being close to nature makes me happy, you know. It really does.
Can you write a good song on a walk, on a hike?
You know, I always go through these ideas in my head, and, you know, when I'm on walk, because I'm kind of a guy that I write things down. I'm so old fashioned when it comes to that. I mean, you do stuff on your phone, you get an idea, but I have to get in front of, you know, a yellow freaking manila, you know, that kind of, you know, that kind of stuff, and write it down. I need to write it down and sit at a piano, and I'll get this idea, and I'll just I'll just write the words sometimes to a song, you know, like I'm All Right or something. I wrote the words before I even wrote the music. You know, I had these, you know, you write a lot of songs about your buddies, your friends that you grew up with. And, you know, I mean, that's one song I wrote. I wrote a song on my birthday, but I wrote it on his birthday. I was on my way to see my buddy, and you know, we grew up together and went to college together, all this stuff. And you just, you know, I love these relationships that, you know, maintain, and they're still my dear friends, you know, even though as you get older, you just, you lose a lot of these guys. But I'm just, I'm blessed I still have a bunch of them. And, you know, I don't take it for granted anymore, for sure.
So for this new tour coming up now, what should people expect now? Out of Phil Vassar 2.0.
Yeah. You know what, we're we're calling this tour the Hits and Heroes Tour. And, you know, it's fun to be able to do, you know, I've had a lot of hits and for a lot of people and myself and, you know, all these other guys, but I love my heroes are Billy Joel, Elton John, and a lot of these guys, Merle Haggard, and so Bob Seger, and a lot of these guys are retired, you know, and I love being able to sort of honor them and honor their music when I do that. I think it's kind of cool, and we have you know, our big video screen. We have, you know, we'll show, you know, of course, you know, Jimmy Buffett. You know, we do some Jimmy Buffett too, and it's really, really cool to be able to honor those guys, you know, and plus just play great songs that they wrote, and so it's really a blessing to be doing what I'm doing. I tell you, honestly, I can't say enough about how excited I am to get back to it, and it's been fun. It's just rigorous, you know. It really gets tough out there sometimes when you're going from, you know, Western Canada to the East Coast to this, to the, you know, it's some days you kind of wake up and you go, where am I again? And but it's a lot of fun to play music and to do these songs.
So get in a little more of the whole atmosphere.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you do. I think you know, when you go through something like this, you appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate every day, and you know, where it just a lot of it just kind of got away from me. You know, it was 25 years of blur. You know, when you're doing records and recording albums, and you're doing radio, and you're doing videos and this and that. I mean, it was very it was intense. You know, for a long time, and then you get to a point where you're just going, wow, now I can just be myself and play my songs and you know, just entertain. And I like to do that. That's what I like to do.
Or just your diet now. Has that changed at all since?
I mean, all I ate was really good. Everything was healthy, and you know, I never liked really fried foods. I never ever ate it. I never liked fried chicken or any of that stuff. I mean, everybody's like, well, "Are you kidding me?" And gravy and stuff like that. I always ate. So I just eat a lot of salads and grilled chicken. And but I tell you what, I do love is like Mexican food. I love it. I love it. It's just that I am craving a burrito right now. So, you know, so it was it was fun to do that, and I'm back at it, and you know, it's just these hikes and stuff I take, you know, during the day, and you know, whether it's 2 miles or 10 miles, you know, I just love being in the nature, and you know, seeing your friends and taking walks and hikes, and I love it. It's just I think it's going to be a fun year coming up. I'm really pumped about you know, doing those songs, and you know, heck, Billy Joel, he's I just saw his, you know, the last show, and he came to Nashville this past year, and I got to see him, and just it was really inspiring to see him, you know, and him and Elton in their 70s, late 70s, still just killing it, you know, and it's so good, you know, it really was great. Well, I've gotten to meet a bunch of those guys, yeah, over the years. I mean, I've you know, of course, I've gotten to record songs with a lot of those guys, and you know, Huey Lewis, of course, is such a great friend, and his music was always some of my favorite. And you know, he's been having some hearing issues, but I think he's getting that stuff worked on, and I'm excited when he can, you know, go. You know, when you're blasting music, you know, of course, those guys in the 70s and 60s, 70s, 80s, you know, you had monitors as big as a car in front of you, and you just listen to stuff loud. It's a lot different now because we wear these in-ears, and we could, you know, regulate the volume, and it really is better for you, and over time, and so I kind of keep them low, and I try not to listen to music as loud as I did then. You know, I'm sure a lot of the damage is done, but you know, you just do the best you can.
The last question I do have is, I mean, for anyone else that's going through your situation, whether you're 50, 60, 70, what do you tell them as far as bouncing back, as far as overcoming, as far as even heart attack, just taking care of yourself? Do you have like any advice now to saying?
Well, I mean, I think it's you know, for me, I think it would have been advantageous to know what my genetics were. You know, I didn't have that the luxury of doing that coming from, you know, dad being adopted and all this. It was a different time, but I think, there's all these calcium scores about your heart, and, there's a lot of x-rays you can do about you for your lungs, and, of course, orthopedic wise, I mean, as far as your knees and your ankles and all that stuff, you probably should, sports, and your body takes a beating, and, just maybe regulate it a little bit more. You don't have to go out and bench press 400 pounds anymore, and, maybe just do more reps and do, that kind of stuff, and take walks that are, it's a really good way to clear your head, and, it's good for your body too at the same time. That's what I like about it.
So you benched 400 at one time, is what you're saying?
No, never 400. I mean, I was up in the upper threes, but that was I mean, that's why my shoulders hurt, and my core, my chest, my pec muscle. I mean, you know what? It just, I was trying so hard to work hard and feel better. And I mean, I kept doing all that stuff, and realized that, wow, all I did was injure myself, to take it easy on your body. And that doesn't mean you can't, train and do whatever. I mean, I've got friends in their 50s, 60s. I mean, I know guys in their 70s still running marathons, and I really respect them. But I mean, my knees, I've got two new knees. So I don't try to run on them anymore, And,
Is that from track, or is that from performing?
Well, I mean, my knees, I mean, I just, I played football too, and I think getting beat up and all that stuff. And I did run so much, and so my knees were all bone on bone, and I got both of mine done at the same time. I got them both replaced. I had a great doctor here at Elite in Nashville, and I did both my knees at the same time. And I was on stage in 3 weeks. So it was pretty amazing. And, but I'll tell you one thing, it's been the best thing that's happened. A couple of my buddies, my bus driver was a power lifter. He had his hips done, replaced. And so he's great now. And, it's amazing with technology and medicine, what you can do now, especially us athletes that are aging, and a little bit. And, but I do feel very, very blessed, and very enthusiastic about, my future. And, as long as I have, I just want to stay healthy, and I think that makes you feel better mentally and physically,
But do you look at anyone still in Nashville and say, this guy hasn't lost a step? Is there anybody?
I mean, there's a lot of us. I mean, there's I know, Kenny's out, Chesney, he's doing great. He's a, it's top of his game, and in his 50s, and Tim, of course, McGraw, he's doing great. I mean, he stays in great shape. He trains a lot, and I have a lot of respect for those guys. They really take care of themselves, and they eat well, and they do all that. They do all the right things. And I think if you just kind of keep a healthy lifestyle, and one thing, people are. I mean, I'm telling you, man, alcohol, it's you beat yourself up with that stuff. I mean, if you do too much, if you drink too much, you're gonna kill yourself. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I think there's just a happy medium, where you can, do that. I just try to tell everybody, it's like, man, just realize that, all the stuff you're doing young is gonna catch up to you when you're in your 50s or 60s or whatever. As you get older, it just really does. And I mean, I've had long conversations with, George Jones near the end of his life, and he was always like, and he did it all, but he was, but I tell you what a great man he was. He would talk, and talk to us, and Conway was the same way, and all these guys, Merle Haggard, of course, I've mentioned, but they were just they said, look, man, just take it easy on your body, because it's the only one you got. And you know what, now that I'm getting I'm getting up in age, you realize that, man, it was good advice. I should have listened more.